Back to recording for today's partner call, and that way we can have it to share. So I wanted to just kick us off here by talking about what we'll be bringing to Housing Stability Council on Friday. Note to all, it looks like the council materials are maybe still getting fully up there. The agenda is posted to our website. I'm just going to navigate myself back there. But note to self that you will want to register in advance now for the webinars. I think this is largely just for managing the process smoothly for a functional perspective in any case. So just make sure that you're registering in advance to attend the Housing Stability Council meeting if you're intending to go. That was a little surprising to many when that policy changed last month. So hopefully we'll get more folks registered in advance this time. And so we are bringing forward several different items to Housing Stability Council for adoption as well as for discussion. And so we don't have transactions in March. We are, though, bringing our pre-development program framework to Housing Stability Council. And this is something that we have shared with you all. I guess we've shared with Housing Stability Council as well as done some significant engagement around it. The framework is recommending that we are moving toward a pre-development program where we have both early feasibility loans up to $50,000 and then pre-development loans between $50,000 and $750,000, and do include a deliberate path to do pre-development lending with a CDFI underneath that second category. And so when the final packet is fully published, looks like the agenda is there right now. You'll be able to see those details. It's, again, similar as we have used throughout our engagement, so shouldn't be new surprises, just further clarification. Again, wanting to get that approval of that framework into place so that we can move forward to be developing and finalizing program manual and then also legal documents to be able to put those into place. Claudia Cantu will be bringing MWSB to a briefing on MWSB to Housing Stability Council. And then we will be introducing concepts around both the new agricultural housing grant resources. This is information that we have gotten feedback on somewhat in our broad engagement, and most certainly with the Agricultural Workforce Housing Facilitation Team, and are trying to incorporate and respond to information around those resources. This is based on a $10 million legislative investment to support agricultural workforce housing across the state near agricultural employment centers. And then lastly, for introduction, we are including our funding resources and set-asides. As we have reflected in this space, as well as our other engagement space, looking at 25% set aside for culturally specific organizations and development by nonprofits and rural communities, and then geographic regions for the remaining 75%. And so we have re-examined, looked at that data around the needs, as well as representation of BIPOC community across the state. And then lastly, I'll just be doing a more broad update on our engagement around with Housing Stability Council around what is the as we are looking at this upcoming resources through not a competitive lens, but a standards-based review, wanting to really seed into the conversations around what those standards are as we are looking for them in this new centralized application process. And so that is really the long and short of our upcoming Housing Stability Council presentation. We do also have our engagement. We have an engagement scheduled for this Wednesday. And I will grab the link for that here in a second to put into the chat for anybody who's wanting to register for for that account. Here it is. I'll put that link. It's Wednesday. Oops. Send it to the waiting room. I need to send it to you. So I will pause there if there's questions around that after we get through questions. We also have here a consultant that we are working with in affordable rental housing, North Highland, who have been working with our division around kind of how we are implementing all of this change, organizational structure, and part of that process has also been to have sought and gotten some really great input and insight from external partners. So I think I see Joy here on the screen who will be able to share a little bit with you all back around that. And just wanted to make sure we're doing our transparent learning and sharing back as we go. But before I hand it off to Joy, I just curious if there's other questions or discussion. I guess I haven't addressed or acknowledged the legislative session that's going forward. We are actively engaging in all of those conversations and including the governor's bill 1537, where it looks like there will be some, at this point, still some resources for a revolving loan program for cities to access that would go through OHCS. Any questions?
Natasha, this is Shelley. I did have a question on the chat, but I don't know if it's going through. It's on that read AI meeting thing. I can't get off that. So when are you planning on announcing funding awards from the 9% tax credit application?
I am fairly sure that those are intending to go to the April Housing Stability Council meeting.
So we won't hear about it till like the week of the 18th or 25th of March?
Roberto or Jackie or Amy, are you on?
Yeah, so it would be right before the April Housing Stability Council that everyone would hear about the recommendations.
So yeah, so it looks like yeah, I mean, so probably the week of the 18th is most likely, as council materials will need to be drafted and published the following week, I would think.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? I think I waited long enough. So I think it's always hard. Every second feels like a while. So with that, I think I'm going to ask Joy to take the mic and share the work that North Highland has been doing.
Thank you, Natasha. So I've got some slides, so I'll pull those up. Oh, I think screen sharing is disabled. But while she's doing that, I'll just quickly introduce myself. I'm Joy Jones. I'm a management consultant with North Highland. We're a leading change and transformation consultancy. We're located across the US and Europe. We help clients like ARH through complex change and transformation projects. And like Natasha shared, we've joined them. We've been hired by ARH to do an organizational assessment and assist them through this improvement journey that they're on. So this is, you know, assessing the pain points of the organization, looking at some of the gaps and issues, and then we're developing a set of recommendations based on these areas of improvement that we've discovered. So without further ado, let me share my screen. Okay, so I just want to quickly start off with outlining our scope of work. So like I said, we were hired by ARH to conduct a staffing and organizational assessment. So we started off with doing a qualitative assessment. So really making sure that we understand the current state of the organization. And so we did this through qualitative methods. So gathering an understanding of what are the key strengths, weaknesses, and areas of opportunity. And we did this through surveys and interviews. And then the next phase that we'll be moving into now is the recommendation portion. So based off of that qualitative data that we gathered in this initial phase, we are currently working on building recommendations based off of some of those key areas for improvement that were identified. And so we're working with staff right now on, you know, improving ways of working, looking at roles and responsibilities, if there's areas for further improvement. And then the last phase is the implementation and change management. And so of the recommendations that we've come up with, we are working with the organization, supporting them through implementing them and supporting them through the change management. So as part of this qualitative assessment, which is what we're going to be talking about today, we did this to ensure that we, like I said, that we're getting a full picture and understanding of the organization, and analyzing the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So then I'll go into our approach next. So we obtained feedback from you all via surveys and focus group interviews. So we invited 275 of you all to take part in a survey in November of last year. Of the 275, we received a 21% response rate. And we reached out to developers, owners, development consultants, property managers, and local jurisdictions. We also, of the survey questions that we assessed, we looked at 6 different operational dimensions, and then we'll go into that next. And then we also did group interviews as another method for gathering feedback. So we invited 59 external partners to take part in the focus group interviews. We had 10 of you attend those, and that happened in December. And so we followed that kind of SWOT analysis in our questionings in the interviews, you know, looking at what's working well, what's not working well, and then, you know, key areas and examples that you guys called out during the interviews. And so next I'll go to the survey results. So this is a summary of what we heard during the survey. So first of all, what we found was on average that partners are slightly dissatisfied with affordable rental housing services. We used a Likert scale of 1 to 5. And so the questions that we asked, we asked, if you guys strongly agreed or disagreed, and then we rated them based off of that. We based the questions off of these 6 dimensions that I mentioned. So looking at organizational structure, relationships and communications, staffing levels. And we found that, some key areas for improvement were particularly around business processes and practice and staffing levels. So I think the lowest satisfaction levels was from property managers and developers. And then I'm just going to call out some of the particular dimensions that I was talking about. So for organizational structure, we received the highest average scoring across all categories. So a lot of you all agreed that employees at OHCS are committed to the mission, and you guys are satisfied with your ability to contact them, but staffing levels is definitely an area that needs to be improved on. The staffing levels are not where they should be. And then another key area, business processes and practice, that had the lowest satisfaction level. So definitely an area that needs improvement. I think one of the examples that came out was that that partners feel that the current ways of working are inadequate. So, and then some of the examples that were given were overly complex processes, lack of follow-up on requests. And then you guys are also unsatisfied with the ability to track your project's progress. So what I'll say here is that this is all diagnostic, right? So our findings we use this survey to really indicate areas that we need to uncover further. So they help us to figure out where to go in deeper to analyze these specific areas. And then also, I'll also call out that this was, we conducted this survey on the heels of the NOFA redesign. So when there was a lot of changes happening with big impact. So just take that into account. Like if we did the survey at another time, we might have gotten different results. So that's the key takeaway for the surveys. The next area that I'm going to show you is a summary of the external partner interview results. So within the group interviews, this is what we found. Areas for opportunity are definitely in employee training, repairing this working relationship between partners and ARH staff, and then also addressing all of the business process changes that are happening. Some consistent themes that we heard throughout all of the interviews was that there's a lack of predictability in processes and a lack of consistency, and also this sentiment that ARH staff are working hard with the wrong focus. So for this first section there on your left, the strained relationship dynamics, we heard that the relationship with OHCS for some folks feels that it's become adversarial. So some examples that we heard were that employees have an unhelpful level of distrust with partners, and it's both ways. And then there's also this sentiment that that staff have lost sight of the overall production goals. Some other examples were that, feeling that feedback is often requested but never incorporated. So, that you guys receive a lot of requests from OHCS to provide feedback, but you're not really seeing, it incorporated. For people challenges, we heard that, depending on who you go to, you will receive different advice. So, and then I think there was some examples of property managers that have multiple properties, they receiving inconsistent level of service from staff. And then there was another example was the perception that feeling that staff receive different level of training or guidance. So just that lack of consistency throughout. And then another example was perception that employees don't understand how affordable housing really works and that the organization needs more experts. So, and then the example that was called out here was that, you know, trying to find solutions and understand how processes work, feeling that, you know, some staff does not have that subject matter expertise in that area, especially related to commercial needs or policy framework. So that's what the people challenges. And then in terms of process challenges, we heard a lot about the communication. You know, a consistent example that came up was that, you know, people were partners were just shopping around for answers. So like if they went to one person and they didn't like that answer, they'd go to someone else until they reached Natasha. And so you know, we want people to you know, feel empowered and to have the right answers, and for partners to trust that who they're working with, that staff has the right answers. And then another on process, like I said, partners, we heard that partners are definitely fatigued with all the business process changes, that they're unable to know where to go within a team with all of the staff transitions, and that front end processes have not caught up with production goals. So yeah, those were the key ones. I think, yeah, those were the key ones. So anyways, this, I know that this may seem a little not necessarily negative, but like Natasha said, they are on an organizational improvement journey. They really want to ensure that the feedback that they're requesting from you all, that they're doing something with it. And so that's what we're here to do, is to work with them on all of these challenges that were identified. And so we're past this phase now. Like I said, we're moving into the recommendation phase where we're building off of a lot of these challenges that were identified. And that is pretty much it. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take questions.
Yeah, thanks for going through all of that, Joy. And just real appreciation for everybody that's given your feedback and input into this process, along with all of the stuff. This is a active time, and I think really we are committed to making sure that we are evolving our work and our structure in a way that supports development and ongoing performance, and support in the way that we're able to offer from the state, and in the way that we can appreciate and be responsive to the needs of all of you that do the incredible work that you do. And let's see, Kevin, I see that you came on screen. Hey.
This is a really amazing analysis, and thanks for this, Natasha, Joy. I guess my question is, like, what's the next steps and what's the outcomes? How long will it take? It sounds like you've got some good critique. You've got the kind of predictable, more study needed. And then in terms of implementation of process improvements and so forth, and transparency with everybody on this side of the screen. Would you mind sharing some more information about that?
Yes, of course. So we are contracted with OHCS through the end of the summer, I believe. So like I said, right now we're in that recommendation phase. And so that's through looking at two particular areas. So one is in business processes, and then the other one is focusing on the people, on the staffing improvements. And so what we're doing right now is clarifying roles and responsibilities. So ensuring that the ways of working, people's jobs and the ways of working are efficient and are improved. Sorry, my cat is up here. Sorry. And so we're working on business process modeling. So we also we've worked with ARH to identify key areas of processes that need to be improved. So we're working with them on that. And so we'll be going until, I believe we're up until April, working on those, and then we're supporting them all the way through the changes and implementations. Does that answer your question?
And I guess to complement that from from our collective work, and I think while there's all of the internal organization and kind of process work, we are also running in tandem updates of structure and process to really do that. So, standing up a new technical advisor group, working to recast our funding process into a centralized open application process, and a lot of kind of decisions that we made as we were moving to be able to be timely and responsive, but that really what we've really well into what we are seeing and the recommendations that are coming through. So I think it's all this has been a large period of growth. I think as we've gotten larger, we need to make sure that we're putting in a really clear, robust systems so that we're making sure that we can really address the challenges that we are identifying and that really have affirmed. I think the process has affirmed a lot more than it created, has identified unidentified things before. So I think it affirms a lot. It is a lot of hard work internally, as well as obviously impacts our external relationships. And so, I think we'll continue to move it along and move forward. Want to make sure that we have regular touch points and ways to make sure that we're getting right. And that it is a collective, and we will keep moving the dial and getting ourselves further to make sure that we are supporting both our internal work and processes, but also impact in the work that you all do. And I see a chat, Joy, around participate in future feedback processes. I think to a large extent, we would be using make sure that you're signed up for our list to be able to get communication out, and that's probably the best way. I don't know, Joy, if you have other flags.
So what was the question? I can't see the chat.
Oh, sorry. It's just, how do we participate in future feedback processes?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like you said, Natasha, totally up to you all. If you would want to do another satisfaction survey further down the line, we're happy to do that as we start rolling out these recommendations that we have for ARH.
And I think I've said this a few times, but I think as we stand up our new processes, we we'll try to get it great and perfect, but we probably won't get it perfect. And really, I want to remain committed to continuing to evaluate and implement needed change where that's identified. And so not in a scattershot way, in a strategic way, but so as we are building that, want to make sure that we're building in kind of loop backs with everybody as well. Any other questions? Just really wanted to make sure that we are sharing back and continuing with transparency of, you know, earnest engagement and sharing of where we are. Kevin, did you have something else?
You can call this off topic, but I also on timeline and, you know, consistent with these process improvements and revamping the NOFA all at the same time. That does sound like a lot. There's been talk of like in April, when the doors are open for beginning engagement with these new processes. Does that mean like April 1st or the end of April? And will there be some sort of foreshadowing of what's to be expected and how to prepare for that to open? So
yeah,
that, you know,
I think
that's
the $600 million question, I think, to be specific about it. I think, yes, I think we have been striving towards an April opening. I think we have a lift of getting through our Housing Stability Council approval process. So we have all of those pieces. We are actively, our teams are drafting documents and trying to, get all of the different pieces ready for when that happens, but also know that we need to kind of strike a balance with legal sufficiency. I'm hoping that by Housing Stability Council on Friday, if not even at Wednesday's engagement session, that I'll be able to share kind of better look at what that sequencing looks like. I think wanting, we've talked about, I think we've heard both clearly from stakeholders as well as from Housing Stability Council around wanting to make sure that we are testing things before we are opening the doors widely. So figuring out what does maybe having some test groups or even soft openings look like, so we can start building pieces as we go. So I think have a few strategy decisions to make ASAP as we continue to get a little bit closer, but I'm hoping that we're sharing that more detail on that in the current draft state with our, I guess, Housing Stability Council and also an engagement this week, so that we can be really putting a finer pen to that. I know everybody is mostly at this point feels eager for being able to apply for resources, and I completely appreciate that.
Thank you.
Natasha, sorry. This is Shelley. I sent an email into Michael Parkhurst about this as the ORMET NOFA opened up and stuff, but are you going to be able to coordinate, because they, to get points, they have an expectation that you've received an award. I mean, we're submitting applications for what we're hoping to get awarded on because their NOFA is open now. And so are you going to be able to coordinate that resource with your new resource, with your centralized application?
Yeah, I think it is our hope that the conditioned commitments will provide the same for ORMEP, but I know our teams are working to connect. So I think it's been a separate process. I understand that there's a approval connection there. So we'll make sure we'll coordinate with our energy services counterparts and make sure that we have a strategy that we're able to share around that. Thanks, Shelley. Let's see, Tim, I see your question around lift subsidy amounts. Thank you to everybody who's responded to the survey on cost controls and subsidy limits. I don't have a response to it. We're examining all of the information that we've received, as well as having some additional consultation with other states and subject matter experts, and plan to loop back on that in the next couple weeks with updated drafts. The final numbers aren't going to Housing Stability Council this month. Okay. So I think with that, with some silence here, I will close this meeting, and I think we've recorded it successfully, so we'll be able to share it. Again, appreciate everybody, and look forward to continuing this work.